So your favorite car, you've heard, Justin?
I'm going to have to say 812 super fast, straight pipe tees.
The 812 or the F12 is what I was going to say.
To be the Carrera GT, we did. Welcome back to the Labeled Podcast, guys. Today, I think we're going to just jump right into some of what's going on currently within Label Motorsports, some of the stuff that we've been working on. It is a new year, so Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you. I think there's a couple things that we're working through right now that probably some people aren't aware of, but this year we're putting on a new event in conjunction with the Michigan International Auto Show here in Grand Rapids. And it's going to be something that I think is going to take a lot of work, which it obviously
already has.
already taken a lot of work. But it's going to require everybody kind of come together. We have a great group of people that's been helping us out. So not only Justin and Evan are involved, obviously, but we also have Mark, who's helped us in Cars and Coffee and also around the shop. We have Liz from Discover Ada, which has been really integral in connecting the dots for us on a couple things. And the guys at Tecton, Russ, Dave, and Jenna have been great also. They're providing some really cool things for the charity auction that maybe we'll talk about. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of get everybody's feedback once the event kicks off. I don't think any of us know what it's going to look like, but
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And Tokyo is right now.
I know, isn't that
cool.
ironic?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys aren't familiar, you know, an auto salon is kind of a mix of custom cars, also some lifestyle stuff. It's really anything that you want to make it. I kind of adopted that term because I like Tokyo Auto Salon, and the stuff that they do in Europe is a little more bespoke, as they'd call it, you know, a little more tailored rather than just like a hot rod show or a manufacturer show.
Yep.
And I think this year, bringing the 20 cars out and getting everybody involved and some of the sponsors and stuff that we have, bringing stuff out, I think it's going to be a cool event.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there anything that you guys, that they've done here in the past that has been, you know, like related with the auto show or, you know, like custom car show stuff in West Michigan back before obviously I was around?
No, I mean, the only thing I remember was the $1 Million Motorway, which, I mean, that was just, I don't know, they just had a handful of Rolls-Royce, Bentleys, you know, a couple Astons or something like that, but it wasn't anything custom related, which that's what's going to be interesting, is like kind of taking a little bit from SEMA, a little bit from Tokyo, and try to bring that here. And then, you know, hopefully in the future we can try to grow it and have people nationwide come out and kind of support it and kind of see what grows. So,
Right.
yeah.
I think, Evan, did you ever go to the Detroit Auto Show?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
You did back when it was in the winter?
I think one time when it was in the winter before they switched, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you guys have heard, but they just announced Detroit's now skipping the auto show this year for 2024.
Oh my goodness.
And they're going back to the January auto show in 2025.
Oh, interesting. Okay, back at the same place?
Yeah, same place, indoors. You know, that they kind of did that whole transition, and everybody kind of was like, that just ain't it. You know, for all the years, everybody's been going to the auto show. Plus, in Michigan, the weather's so terrible. Like, that gives us something to do in the winter, especially in January. Like, you know, you're like, we can do something related to cars. So I'm actually kind of excited to see that go back. I think that will help the show and maybe bring people back, you know, to participating, because they tried to do it in September. And, you know, that's the end of the summer, kids going back to school. You've already done things all summer. It's like the last thing you're thinking about is going to downtown Detroit and walking around to look at cars.
Exactly.
And as soon as they announced it, I thought that was going to be a big hit. I mean, a big failure on that side of it. And I didn't even go to the past 2 years. I don't know anybody that did. did.
Yeah.
Seriously, I know. You didn't even see much about it. It used to be
No.
like the biggest thing.
I know.
I mean, every car was getting debuted there. And then do you remember going in the basement there?
Oh yeah.
But that
Yep.
was kind of themed somewhat towards the aftermarket, which
Yep.
is kind of interesting.
I know it.
There's a lot of wrap shops back in the day that were down there, and you'd get some tuners, some trucks, and stuff like that. But
Yep.
it was always cool to walk down there because that's where you see some interesting stuff.
Yeah, Dub magazine back in the day. They used to
yeah.
have a massive space on there. They'd have a DJ. They'd have all kinds of cars.
That's awesome.
I liked going down there. I was like, I'll go hang out down here, Dad. You guys, you go up there. But it's interesting to see that come back that way, and maybe that's kind of the sign of the times of maybe auto shows making somewhat of a resurgence. I think Detroit kind of leads the way in that regard, just because that's where everybody went, and that's where everybody went to reveal cars. If you were a manufacturer, Detroit was where you did it, and losing that aspect of it was pretty deflating. I mean, me and Christina went over to that every year, and it was exciting. We spent the weekend in town. I think it was good for the city too, because people traveled to the area, and stayed in town. So hopefully that comes back next year, and it's a positive thing. And I think that'll kind of wear off on us over here
Hopefully.
as well.
Yeah.
Because that was some of Showspan's concern is, dwindling attendance. The manufacturer's not really throwing as much, advertising dollars or marketing dollars into it. And I know Stellantis this year pulled out on the show. They pulled out of every show in the world.
Crazy.
In saying they're going towards EV marketing, and putting all their eggs in that basket, which, we've seen what's happened to Ford. We've seen Tesla lower prices. It just seems like a strange time in the market to put everything into one basket and think, well, we're not going back now. So hopefully, we'll see some positive momentum. And I'm all about EV stuff. I just think it has its place in the marketplace. It's not necessarily for everybody. For every car out there.
And I've noticed the past few years too, if you've kind of looked through like the social media growth with a lot of automotive people, it's like that's where they're debuting cars. It's like they'll get Shmee and Stradman and stuff to go look at all these cars, test drive them, get a million views on a video. That's getting more eyes than people coming to a show and seeing the car for the first time. So I think that's where a lot of the marketing teams are going together, and then they're like, how are we going to get the most views possible? And it's not going to be people coming to one location and going to a show. And I think that's kind of what killed it, is a lot of that stuff going on right now.
Absolutely. It's just a different time, that's where we are. Kind of just to roundabout circle back to where we started is we're doing a new event called the Michigan Auto Salon this year. We've got a lot of partners involved. We've got a lot of really cool cars. We're going to have our hands full for the next 2 weeks. We talked about maybe possibly trying to do some mobile type of podcasts out there, which would be interesting. I don't know how polished it would be, but maybe we could just set up, one time in the room after hours, grab some chairs, and see if we can make it happen, and maybe show some people, that space at that time, kind of a mix of vlog and a podcast all in one. But we're excited to show you guys that, and hopefully we can get some more people to participate next year as we continue to grow the event and show you what we're doing here in Grand Rapids.
So what's your kind of vision for that space with the Auto Salon?
With the Auto Salon, I was like, if anything, I thought bringing in like complementary things like art. We have some artists coming in, the national artists. We have Muse GR, which is a pretty well-known art gallery here in town. They have sculpture art. They have modern abstract. They have like lifestyle art where they do like sculptures of Air Jordan 1s and stuff like that. The really cool stuff that I think is modern, kind of pushes the edge of, what's art, what's functional. And that's really what, that's what we try to do in cars. I mean, everything's got to be functional, but you want to be somewhat artistic when we work on the cars. So that's kind of what I thought about the space is, if we could bring in a jeweler. I know DeVos is coming in and bringing in some watches and like custom designed jewelry pieces. So there's something for the men and the women, to look at. There's also going to be a bar set up in there, furnished by Amway. So there'll be like a lounge atmosphere. Trellis is bringing in modular furniture and some tables and stuff. So it will encourage people to kind of just sit in the space and, take it all in. It's supposed to feel like you're in a separate environment, so we have our own music, we have our own lighting, decoration. There's a lot of elements that we're trying to bring together in the first year, which is challenging. Not only do you have to sell everybody on the concept and get them excited about it, but they want to be, we've got to get them involved, and then we have to coordinate, execute, design the space, everything that goes into starting a brand new event. And it's all good stuff. It's just, as you add more elements to it, it just gets a little more taxing as far as how much time you got to put into it,
I've seen it.
So I'm up there trying to be like a floor set designer and everything. And by the end of the day, I look exhausted and haven't moved out of my chair. So, we'll see. I think it's all going to be worth it. The first year is always the most difficult. And I know everybody's pitched in. You guys have all offered to be there when we need it. So it's just going to be a matter of time. Once we get in there and start getting stuff moving, and see it all come together, that's when it's kind of like building our car for a year.
Yeah.
You get to see it at SEMA and you're like, oh man, that was all worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, the people that were there last year, I don't know if you guys went in, we kind of had like somewhat of a demo set up for what it's supposed to kind of be geared towards.
Yep.
And that's kind of be the same visuals, right? It's kind of everything black, highlighting the cars. And then now we're going to obviously have more stuff highlighted because we have more products and stuff to showcase, but it's going to have that same atmosphere where you walk in the room and you just kind of want to step back and just kind of relax, look at the cars. And we kind of got a lot of positive feedback with that, which is awesome.
It was good. Evan did quite a few reels. If you guys go to MichiganAutoSalon.com or go to Instagram, we started an account there called Michigan Auto Salon. You can see some of the teaser stuff that we put together last year and also some information about the event. And then as we work through this year, we'll obviously update that and tailor some things and be able to fine-tune it for next year. But ideally, I'd also like to open it up in the future to people to register their vehicle. So, somebody has something unique, special, a collector, an exotic, a custom-built car, something in any category as well. I always thought have like an awesome drift car, have a track car, have a professional race car, have an old school, built really well, have a lowrider, anything that is really well done and presented that, kind of exhibits art or a form that somebody can really respect. You can stand back at a lot of different cars and it doesn't have to be your favorite, but you can respect what somebody did to get that car to that level, And that's what I think that space is perfect for. You kind of just bring in something for everybody. It's not to leave anybody out. It's to just, let's show some of the best examples of the types of cars and vehicles that we can bring in there. That's something that people will certainly pay to come and see and be a part of, and spend a weekend, again, in February when there's not much to do anyway in the northern part of the United States. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be big. I think we'll have a great turnout this year, and I think that will just lead into really good stuff for next year.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. So we just want to bring you up to speed a little bit on that stuff that's coming, but you guys can see some of the stuff that's on the table today. Today we were going to talk about some of our relationships that we currently have, some things that we're working on. These guys have both been involved in kind of each component or each company that we've been working with for the past 12 to 24 months. And some of the stuff that's really exciting, that gray piece up there, it's a rough piece and the camera can't pick it up perfectly, but we've talked about that a couple times. That's that front air duct for the wide bodies. So what you guys can't see is that's the part that goes between that front center section where the license plate filler goes, and then that goes up into the front trunk. And I think, Evan, when we went to ADAC, we actually did a little talk up on that, that we may drop before this, or it may drop right after this podcast, but it'll show you the finished sides of that. So that's kind of the piece that you see in between there. And ADAC Automotive is, I think, a company we're going to be talking about quite a bit more because, as you guys know, we've spent some time over there. Their leadership has been phenomenal. They kind of found us, last year? What was it, Rides on River Street?
Yep, Rides on River Street. Yeah, I stopped in after.
That's right. We did the reveal at Rides on River Street. Somebody called somebody from ADAC, and they were like, dude, you got to go over there and check out this shop. And the guys just showed up unannounced. We were in here in in typical Andy fashion. The door opens, and I don't have any scheduled appointment or anything, and I was working on something, and I'm annoyed because that's just how it is. We've got so much stuff going on. If we don't have a scheduled visit, then somebody pops in. Usually it's like a parts guy that stopped by earlier and wants to look at stuff. But they walked in, introduced themselves, we listened to them, and understood that they were trying to take their company in a more unique path by going into smaller volume custom pieces, and that they were local, and wanted to support local business. And it just started, a flurry of meetings after that. And then we started working together, creating that first product for SEMA this year. And we revealed that on our twin turbo car. And then that pistachio piece you see up there, we didn't quite get there with that piece, but we made some big strides. That's going to be our functional roof scoop that we're going to release for the Z06 program. And it's going to be different than other people's roof scoop that they've put out there. And I know we've got a lot of time into that piece right there, but it will house the rear camera, which is amazing. It won't be an add-on piece. It'll be a complete replacement piece with a duct that feeds into the engine bay. So I think, after that's all said and done, that's going to be a really neat piece that fits into the style of the car and everything that we're doing, along with the wide body on the Z06, which nobody's really seen yet, but we're getting close to finalizing our renders that we'll put out to the public and see who wants to jump on the wagon and go for the wide body ride again.
Exactly. A lot of people probably don't know, but these components are 3D printed. You want to talk about somewhat of the process that they did to create this?
Yeah, the 3D printing process is something that's just every year it seems like they get better.
It's insane.
Yeah, we're even talking about 3D printing hose.
Yeah.
I mean, 3D printing hose that can run fuel through it. I mean, I don't even know where to go with that, but that could certainly help us. But yeah, these guys all 3D printed these pieces. They can 3D print rubber TPU. I mean, if you guys look inside the wide body, again, referencing back to Evan's video, the piece that's inside the front trunk is actually rubber. That's 3D printed rubber.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, and then they can bond them together, so it can create a singular piece. So the guys over there do crazy stuff. Obviously, we've been over there a few times and seen some of the stuff. They do full finishing in-house. So ADAC, basically one of their big contracts were all the latch mechanisms or handle mechanisms on like Chevy trucks, Ford trucks, things like that. And they do everything start to finish. So they do coatings, painting, everything in-house. So the manufacturer actually gets a complete finished part, and all they have to do is install it on the car. So it kind of gives you an idea of what their level of capability is just right out of the gate before even doing anything else that's prototype related. Yeah. So I think really we're only limited by time, I would say, money, obviously, and then obviously the size of things that you can print. But they have some pretty large scale printers on there that are capable of a lot of really neat things. So.
And if you guys saw the Z06 video that we shot and captured, so that was 3D scanning the Z06, but they also came in and 3D scanned the wide bodies to create this duct. So they got all the data, and then we're able to build that just to fit perfectly. It's incredible how it fits.
Oh, it's so
we'll have to
cool.
throw some pictures up of
sure.
how it fits in there, but yeah, the process is wild nowadays. It's like just to create a product out of nothing. You just scan it, create the product, and then all of a sudden you print it and it's there.
I know.
It's wild.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. That really allows you to fast track something too. When you've got a tight timeline or you need to see if something can actually work. Like before we go to carbon, that's where this is really handy. It's that, we could do that roof scoop 5 times and have that done in a week and a half and immediately get that over to the carbon shop, and carbon shop can build our tool and build a carbon part. Where in the past you would have had to design that, you would have had to prototype it somehow, after you prototype and shape probably on the car, then you got to take it back off and make sure it's finishable, and then go to carbon. It's just a totally different process. It takes time, but it's more machine time than it is manpower nowadays.
Have you noticed in the industry, like a lot of the big companies like Novatech and some of the other guys, like are they doing this to develop most of their parts?
I don't know some of the companies, what the processes they use. I'm assuming they do, just because, companies like TechArt and Novatech and Brabus and those guys, they have really big budgets to do things the right way. That's also why their parts and stuff fit perfectly. And there aren't those issues that a lot of the other companies do, is because they take the time to do it right. That's also why they're longer to get to market. Very similar to like what we did with the wide body. Everybody had their wide body basically in a production form by the time we released our prototype version at SEMA in 2021. And that's because we went through months of this wasn't right. This isn't going to work. Can we change this? All right, we've got to change it. We weren't really willing to make any sacrifice just to get something to the market. And I think in the end, that's what stands out the most.
Exactly.
That
Yeah, and we had hiccups with the 3D printing in that project too.
Oh yeah,
That was kind of the first of it.
Yep.
Which that was interesting to see. It was crazy to get the shipments in of just massive panels that were 3D printed, bonded together.
I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw up some pictures of us unboxing those big crates. That was like, that's the first time I ever had like big SLA parts printed, and I was opening them up, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I never thought I could do this, and then actually have a part. I just throw it on the car, and you can see what it looks like immediately in real life.
Yeah.
And the issue with that SLA is that the heat, while the guys were trying to finish it and make it suitable for tooling, just warped the panels. And you remember when we had those, they had big joints in them,
Yep.
and we fit them to the car. We could feel some deviations on there. So we knew that was not going to be perfect to make tooling from. So the guys actually had to go in and skim coat and body work, basically like you would a finished car. And then by the time they did all of that, it was just too inconsistent. The part got really heavy. And we just determined that we needed to go back at it from the CAD standpoint and get really clean CAD data, and then make small changes in the tooling as we needed. So cost more, learned some lessons, but it also was a proof of concept kind of for us. So it's all a learning experience, and I think that's kind of what we'll show also through these processes is, when we are out in the field, be able to show what we started with and maybe what we finished with as we go start to finish. And I know Evan has some content from when we did 3D scan. I don't think we put all the robotic stuff out there, but we did capture some of the robot scanning, and they have some really insane scanning capabilities there that were cool to capture.
When you walk in there, it looks like you're in like Tony Stark's work lab or something like that, where he's just like all the robot arms are just like going at it. It's so cool.
And the guys are in the corners just, like entering information in, and they're reading all the data. Jesse is awesome. You guys probably have seen Jesse in some of the other videos, but he's their metrology, I think, director, and a genius with that stuff. And, we saw him scan, him and one other guy scan the car, I mean, quickly. When I compare it to what we did in the past, it just seemed like, man, these guys, they know exactly what they're looking at. And then we got the data all cleaned up and sent over, and it was way more detailed than what we had before, especially on those lower panels.
So what's the difference between using ADAC and then what we did before?
Well, the difference with ADAC is ADAC uses a different type of scanning scanner.
Okay.
And I think just the difference between what that can capture compared to what like the Faro arm scanner can capture, I think it just requires more man hours, more time for the Faro arm to capture that amount of data, where this Atmos scanner that they used was so detailed that you could really pick up stuff that normally you wouldn't.
Yeah, we even had the conversation because we were talking about wrapping something just matte to be able to scan it really quick. But I was talking about like, well, what happens if we have a knifeless joint? And he's like, you could pick that up. Like if you think of the thickness of vinyl, it's basically nothing. And then he's like, you can pick that up and you'll see it right in the data, which is crazy how accurate that stuff is.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the 3D printing is really just going to push us to that next level of fit and finish, and with ADAC kind of steering that ship and guiding us along the path, I think that will make a big difference in, especially the Z06 program, the stuff that we bring to market, and also making it easier for us to make things repeatable.
Yep.
That's the biggest challenge. But kind of moving along with ADAC, we have some other great partnerships that you guys have seen, like the MV Forged relationship. We obviously released our 5-spoke and that 10-spoke, I think it is. On the SEMA car, again, we did do the 10-spoke on that 765.
And R6.
We did the multi-spoke on
I forgot we got 3.
we got 3.
Yep.
Right. We're working with David. David, who owns MV, has been great to work with. It allows us that creativity to kind of create our own wheel line. So I'm excited to keep working on that, and maybe we have a couple new things cooking up for 2024, which I'm really excited about. But the wheel designs have come out awesome. No complaints there. Definitely been a good relationship and a good step up for us. But in the meantime, you guys see the Venturi intake up here. There's some big things coming from a Venturi that I know we're going to be excited to have. I know we have one of the first numbered units coming for the Z06, and I've talked to Bilal, and he has said the numbers that they've seen on the dyno, real world, no nonsense, on that car just from the intake was like staggering. And I'm like, how can the intake make that much of a difference on that car?
It always blows my mind.
I know.
Yeah.
But he said, they took it to a third party dyno, no dyno tricks, anything like that. They've tested multiple cars, so it's not just like one car, put it on one time, and it's repeatable. So I'm really excited to see that piece and also hear what that performance gain is. And I guess it opens it up where you can actually hear it on the car, because that was cool too when we put it on just the regular C8.
Yeah, you just hear.
Yeah, you hear that intake change.
That car is going to be nasty. Straight pipe rift.
Right.
Venturi.
I'm ready for that.
Oh yeah, that's all you need.
No kidding. And something I want to touch on, just because you just said that, we get some hilarious comments in some of the videos that get picked up. And I think people think we're trying to push or sell products here. If you guys don't know me personally, I'm not trying to sell anything. I actually tell guys, like, if you're coming in here and trying to get your money back, or you're spending money expecting this to be like some form of good investment, then nothing you do here is a good investment. This is you doing it because you're having fun, and that's something that I want to be clear with, and I think everybody already knows that. You just have those guys that will never understand.
Right.
But we always are very transparent in the fact that if you're doing any personalization to your car, we're building a wide body, we're putting wheels, all this stuff. You're doing it for a specific reason. It's because you want it to be like that, or you want it to sound like that, or look like that. And we've all got opinions, right? Like, so what somebody likes may not be what I like, but that's what they want on their car. And that's the beauty of our industry, is we allow people to be kind of individuals on who they are, and they come to us for our opinion only.
Yep.
Opinion. That's being the key word. And our opinion is these are the things that we like. These are the things that we enjoy. And if it fits with you, bring your car, come on over. Let's have a conversation. If it doesn't, there's a million other shops that can certainly get what you're looking for.
Yeah. And it's frustrating too, because especially the exhaust videos, it's so hard to capture the true sound of the car, and then you have a totally different environment. So you got revs outside, you got revs in here, you got new exhaust, old exhaust, and trying to capture it to make it sound. I mean, the stuff that we do in here, it sounds bonkers, but then you listen to it on the camera, and you're like, oh, that's not very good.
Right.
Right.
And Evan can attest to that. It's very hard to capture that true audio, and then you put the video out, and you're like, new exhaust, riff, straight pipe, and then all of a sudden you're like, it doesn't sound much different. Yeah. Well, in person it sounds incredible, but it's hard to pick up on camera.
And at the end of the day, they're entertainment videos. Yeah. I don't want anybody to take our videos and say, this is scientific. Here you go. Here's the sound difference. This is why you choose this. We just don't do that, and we don't have the production value to do so. For us, we're strictly just trying to create entertaining content for you to see something, you can hear something. But at the end of the day, I always tell people, if you're that concerned with the alterations, then seek it out and find it in real life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you can meet somebody that has it, or talk to somebody that you trust and say, what's your honest feedback? Yep. And really, that's my honest feedback, is that I would choose to run the Rift as opposed to a stock system. I haven't found a stock car that I'm like, I can't improve that, And that's not because I'm not building the exhaust, but I'm saying there's companies that make exhausts that sound better to me than a stock exhaust. It doesn't matter the level of the car. And to some people, it's sacrilegious. You don't take a stock part off a car because the company spent $10 million to design. Good for them. Yeah. I mean, they did it for their specific reason, which is to do what? Sell cars. Yep. Well, why would I get the car and change the exhaust? Because what I like to hear a car loud, or I like to hear a different tone, whatever it is. And that's kind of what our business is. If you don't like the way a taillight looks, and I put a tint or a film or a matte over top of it, and you're like, well, why would you change that? The manufacturer spent $5 million developing taillights. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. That's just our business. We're not here to do anything better than anybody or do anything better than a manufacturer. This is personalization at its core. Yep. And
the interesting thing with exhaust too is the difference between the exhaust construction with X pipes, titanium, Inconel, like all the sounds are completely different. So a V12 Ferrari might sound good from the factory, but you put a titanium with X pipes, I mean, there's no sound that's going to beat that, and that's just personal preference. It may be too loud for somebody, you know, but it's just what we like, and we like cars that scream. So that's just our opinion.
So your favorite car, you've heard Justin, whether it be at SEMA, whether it be here, there's no wrong answer.
In person. Right?
In person, yeah.
I'm gonna have to say A12 Superfast straight piped Rift. That's I don't know what can beat that when you got a big old V12 sitting up front and you got a lot of titanium. It's a perfect pair.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but I don't know. How about you, Evan?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Oh, geez.
The A12 or the F12 is what I was gonna say. Just because that's, I think, from what I can remember, the loudest car I've ever heard in person.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. I've been trying to think. I really don't think I can even. And when you were driving the F12, it sounds like an F1 car, and I was way over there in the back of the shop, and you were out on the street, and it sounds like a literal F1 car just driving down the road. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, I'm probably the same. It used to be the Carrera GT. We were fortunate enough to do quite a few Carrera GTs back in my day when I had the shop in Miami, and me and my buddy Rich did I think 3 Carrera GT straight pipes. Dario Franchitti, Tony Kanaan, and then we had a client from Dubai that came in and we did it for. And this is back when the car came out, so I mean we're talking like 2007.
That's crazy.
And I showed you that terrible iPhone picture where we had 7 Carrera GTs in the corner of the shop at one time, and one off of the camera that was actually in half because the tub got sent out to Germany. But that car, when we first started it, I just stood there, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm listening to. Like, I was just blown away. That was young me, just younger in the exotic car world, and Rich cranked that car up, and I was like, that is just the craziest thing. We drove that car around in Coral Gables, and it was like the best sounding thing I could ever imagine. So, I'm probably still 50-50 on that, just because at that time it was so like impactful to me. It carried like a memory that I'll never forget. And it was just amazing to like be a part of that. But, fast forwarding through all the other things that we've done, and I've done everything from like 800 cubic inch big block, supercharged cars, putting out 2,000 horsepower, which that's a whole nother sound. But we used to take those hot rods to like rev battles at these big shows, and those things would demolish everything there. It literally, I don't know what it sounded like, but I would be in there revving it, and it was just like maniacs. I don't personally like the sound, but for what it was, it's just hard to be like, I don't know anything louder than that. It's not even, it's like a V12. It makes the V12 seem quiet just because there's so much madness going on. But the Ferrari V12, we talked about it, I think, last week. It's like, I might have to somehow figure out how to save up some coins and get one of those one day, just for the simple fact of that sound of the V12 and just driving it around straight pipe it makes you feel like a race car driver.
Oh yeah.
Then we took the A12 to Grattan, and did we share? I think we shared just some of it howling on the back. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that sound, it just sounds like crazy, like lions or something, like screaming in the forest. It is awesome. And that sound at the track that's one of those sounds I'll never forget either, because it just echoed through the woods, and it didn't matter where you were.
It's crazy. Yeah. With the Carrera GT, was that somebody's parts that were straight piping, or were you guys building that?
No, those were who made those? It was a big, a well-known exhaust company. I don't think it was Tech Art. I can't remember off the top of my head. It may have been somebody like Tubi or Capristo back then. I just can't remember the name. But literally, there was nothing to it. And we took we took the can off of the Carrera GT, and it's that big, because basically the whole back half of the Carrera GT is the exhaust can, and it's probably this big and this wide. And we replaced it literally with like that much pipe, so it came off of
with an X pipe.
Yeah, just an X pipe. It just came and merged in the middle and went right out the tips. The tips are up high, and there was nothing to it. So when the car started up, it was like like it just was right there.
Yeah.
It went through no pipe. It's almost like dumping straight from the headers. And we started it without the bumper. It was just like, it scared people in the shop because it was like immediately just fired and it was like really high. And people were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
and those ones are more pure sounding too. That's
They are.
what we actually just had this conversation, I think last week, about like comparing the 812 F12 and then like a Venador.
Yep.
And it's way different because of the length of pipe and all that. Like the Venador is almost like messy. It's nasty sounding, but it sounds like the Ferrari is just so refined. I don't know what it is about it. I don't go like that. Maybe that collector that we always talk about when we do the catless downpipes. I don't know what it is, but it's unbelievable.
Maybe we show you guys what that collector looks like. Most of you have probably seen like the collector on a traditional header is just basically the 4 or 3 or whatever engine you have coming into one collector. Well, this collector on the V12 actually has like curved veins. It's the most wicked looking thing ever.
6 to 1.
Yeah, 6 to 1, and it comes in. It's like on the spinning motion, and I can just like when first time we looked at it, I looked at it, I'm like, I can just envision like the gases coming
it's
down
like
and
spinning like a
they're
turbo and
spinning
just coming
and they're
out.
coming out. And like that's what makes that crazy sound. But again, just I'm with you guys. That sound is amazing. We revved it through the hall, remember, convention center. And I'm sure since we're going to have 2 of them this year, so if you guys aren't coming to the Auto Salon or the Auto Show, you might want to come because we're going to have an F12 straight pipe and an 812 straight pipe at the same event. It's going to be a crazy setup, and imagine grabbing some of that content of those 2 cars coming through the convention.
Going through there.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Just screaming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just a great sounding car and something that hopefully it's on my bucket list one day to pick up. But.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing I was just thinking of was some of the rally cars I've heard is a completely different sound, but when you have a car that has anti-lag and you're launching it, that car, like coming through the woods, is unbelievable sounding, but it's completely different. I mean, you have a 4-cylinder compared to a V12, but like there's something about like a tuned anti-lag from an XWRC car or an R5 or something that just sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
Obviously some of the other motorsports cars that sound like that too, but it's hard when you hear something on track versus like a rally, is because like when it's on track there's also 20 other cars out there, and so you kind of can get a little sound of it, but it also just sounds messy because there's so many cars out there. But with the rally, it's just a single car and no sound in the woods, and all of a sudden you just hear it echoing through. And
do those all have sequentials in them?
Most of the big cars, yeah. So the R5s, WRC cars, yeah, those are all sequentials.
So does that make a difference when you're popping through?
Because
you're just
straight cut gears.
Yeah, you're just going right through them.
Yeah, when you hear one of those cars launch and just take off, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I think for today we've touched on a couple things about the Auto Salon and some of our parts partners that we're working with and some things that are coming up. I think in the next episode maybe we'll go into a little more in depth on what we have on the horizon as far as projects coming out this year. Yeah. Also, maybe a timeline to the Z06 program for the people that are interested in learning more about the Z06 program. Reach out to us. We can certainly share some information. It will be similar to the C8 program, just on steroids. And I think it's going to be a game changer when it comes to the Z06, just because of the power the Z06 already has, and I think what we can do with the car. It's also going to be more functional, and we're going to have more quantity to offer this time. So I'm hopeful that you guys were impressed with what we brought to the market with our first offering, which is the C8, and you're going to follow along and see what we can do with the Z06. And the guys that are really interested in being unique and different, I think this program's really going to be up your alley, and I'm excited. And for the guys that have always wanted traditional carbon, we will be doing traditional carbon.
Not the granite?
No granite, no countertop,
like
no
the
mud.
marble.
Yeah, no mud on this one. I mean, that will be an option if somebody wants to do it, but we're going to open it up and also do some really cool carbon weave. So I'm excited to kind of show that aspect of the really clean traditional look that people haven't seen on our parts.
And the more functional to match a car, which is going to be awesome. So if somebody wants
Absolutely.
to take to the track, hopefully it'll improve the stock car, which is
Yes.
going to be sick. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. And I want to say thanks to you guys that have commented or sent us messages, being supportive of the podcast. This is new for us. We're, again, we're all rookies. We're just learning as we go, and it's kind of fun for us. So we appreciate the feedback. Please thumbs up us, subscribe, like. We also are on TuneIn now, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So if you guys aren't watching the video, feel free to jump on one of those and follow us there and stay up to date. And we also want to hear some feedback. So give us a like, give us some feedback, give us some topics that you want to talk about. We want to kind of be interactive and maybe be able to bring in some guests at some point, which I think would be a cool aspect of it.
Yep.
But we also want to remain interactive with you guys. So again, let us know what you like, what you don't like, and keep watching.
See you next time.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.